So, firstly, that before we begin this listening Dharma teachings, and we need to add this intentions, the awakened mind, the purpose of listening this Dharma teaching and studying this scripture, which is composed by this Shantideva, for myself and not just for myself, and then start from one's dearest, such as a parent, mother, parent, and then try to generate that sense that equal to each and every sentient beings, try to say equal to the one's dearest, and then to lead them, liberate them from this cyclic existence and its cause, and then to complete enlightenment. For that purpose, that I'm going to studying this, listening this Dharma teaching, and then whatsoever I understand through this guidance, I will try my best to put into practice in my day-to-day life. So with that kind of intention, and then listen this Dharma teaching. And then the manner or the conduct while listening this Dharma teaching is also that you should prepare that kind of like in short, brief, that listen carefully in an excellent way, and then try to hold it. Prepare that both the intention and behave or the manner in this way, and then listen this Dharma teaching. The Dharma teaching itself here that we are studying this the way of Bodhisattva's life. It's kind of like we are trying to study and we are trying to work on the path that how those in the past, those bodhisattvas, they train themselves, and then how they achieve enlightenment, and then not just that, and then also that how they train themselves into its path of Mahayana, and then how keep maintaining, how keep practicing this Mahayana spiritual path. That they studying about this in the past, how they did. Then similar here, we are also trying that to practice same as them. And this is our kind of like this main scripture that is studied that which we are doing is this. And then in order to follow their footstep, in order to say, train oneself accordance with the what, how, and how they trained themselves in the past in this Mahayana path or this Mahayana spiritual path. And in order to do similar, then we are studying this, that which have this kind of like a 10 chapter that Shantideva's within this 10 chapter, Shantideva is kind of like a guide for the whole complete path of Mahayana. If anyone who have interested to follow the footsteps of the Bodhisattvas, then this studying this 10 chapter and then the practicing and following those guidance which is shown within this 10 chapter, it is very much sufficient that allowing us or the making able to engage into this Mahayana spiritual path. So that is this our whole main goal. And then in order to fulfill this whole main goal, then that here he is guiding very orderly, and this 10th chapter has mainly 4 themes. That's how he is leading us. First 3 chapters, then he is kind of like introducing us how to have this precious bodhisattva and the bodhisattva's vow within oneself. And then the second one is that after we received and after we have this bodhisattva and after we have this bodhisattva's vow, then how to not to lose bodhisattva and how to not to let transgress is our bodhisattva Bodhisattva's vow. And then that is also shown by this another 3 chapters. And then the third one is to just not let it transgress and not to lose this bodhicitta, but whatever we have, both this bodhicitta and bodhisattva's vow, and how one can further develop or enhance or increase, and then how to do it. And then that is guided by this third 3 chapters, which is 7th, 8th, and 9th chapter. And then once we able to develop this enough, and then this is it that complete this Mahayana path. Then that's how one can enlighten to oneself, and one can enlighten to others as well. And then through this activity that enlightening oneself and others, that whatsoever we have merit, then this last chapter is also dedicating and making aspirations, but at the same time it also guides us at how to dedicate marriage properly, and then how to make it aspirations properly as well, by looking at how Shantideva, he dedicated his merit and how he made it aspirations by his own merit. And similar like that way, we can also understand how to dedicate it merit and how to make it aspirations as well. So these are the main 4 themes. And then today we are here, this second one now, that we complete this first theme, studying about this first theme, that how to generate this bodhicitta and how to receive this bodhisattva's vow in oneself. And then after that, now this second theme, which we are here, that now in order not to lose this bodhicitta which we generated, and then in order not to let transgress this bodhisattva's vow which we already received, and in order to do that, what one should prepare and what one should practice. And then this 3 chapters is guiding and brief, that now he is in chapter number 4, that he is recommending that in order not to lose, then we need to understand the precepts, the precepts are normally like that. Or any kind of precepts, like refuge precepts, or the Pratimoksha vow precepts, and Bodhisattva's vow precepts, and Vajrayana samayas. All these are kind of like when we really look into all those precepts and how they're guiding, and if we really able to follow that instruction, and that really does help to not to lose that vow. And these are all purposes to that what we received commitment, in order to not to lose that commitment, and these are the method, these are the precepts. If you don't look at in this way, then if you just look the precepts number, then it is kind of like, oh, what is this? And then so there are so many. This is kind of like a tightening myself and making kind of like a binding myself, that won't be able to do and not allowing me to do anything, not allowing me to it is kind of like a tightening myself or binding myself. We may feel this way when we don't understand the main goal or the purpose of all those precepts. When we look into it precepts in a very detail, then these precepts are actually that whether we are able to follow right now 100% or not, it is kind of like it takes time, and it has to develop with the training, yes. But somehow we need to understand that when we analyze all those precepts one by one, and then we think this main key, that which is bodhicitta or the bodhisattva's vow, and how does this all precepts is related to not to lose this and not to transgress this. When you look one by one, each and every precepts, whatever it is recommended to kind of like to preserve, and that really helps to not to lose this bodhicitta and not transgress this bodhisattva's vow. That really does. And this is one example. Like that way, and rest of the other vows as well, like a Pratimoksha vow, and then refuge vow, and all those. Refuge vow, we have this, after we receive refuge vow, they will be going to recommend to you to preserve these 9 precepts. And that's, if we just look into 9 precepts itself, then it is sometimes it is kind of like some people feeling like, oh, this is what, for instance, one precepts, many people, when they don't really understand, and then they feel this is something little strange. Just like, oh, after you take refuge under Buddha, then you cannot take refuge under any of worldly gods. What's wrong there? And then after you take refuge under Sangha, then you cannot make any longer that you cannot build relationship and friendship with the what do you call it, non-Buddhist in short. What is that? You see, if we just look into it precepts without understanding this, how this our commitment, what we committed that, okay, no matter what, I will going to go my faith and devotion to Triple J, right? That's what we are making commitment in a refuge vow. That's our commitment. That's our vow. That's our promise. And then now, engaging into those things, such as like a worldly god, going to consulting the refuge, the local gods, and consulting this ordinary beings, and then consulting this kind of like how can I say now that how can I say let's say like some person, missioners, like consulting those missioners, then they might talk too much and they might change your mind, and they might become condition for you to change your faith and change your devotion towards Triple J, right? So that in order to prevent that, then these are the precepts. When we look into that, these precepts in this way, then it really makes sense. Other than this, then yeah, as I said earlier, if you just look into precepts without this reason, then sometimes these precepts maybe we feel strange. What is the wrong? That this is not contradicting. I can make friend with those missioners. I can consult to those worldly God. Still, I can have a faith in Triple J. But what does this contradicting? What does this? How this are kind of like disturbing each other? So we may feel that. And yes, these are some sudden stage when we reached. Okay, for instance, that now after we train ourselves, make it this commitment very, very firm, strong enough. Now let's say, no matter what happening, that I will never ever going to change my faith towards Triple J. I will never ever going to change my devotion towards Triple J. When our faith is reached to that third stage, which is irreversible faith, right? Irreversible faith. Then after that, little different. After that, then this is a little different. And yeah, then not really contradicting. But until that, it is contradicting. Before we stabilize our faith, before we formed our faith, it does different. It does make it different. It does disturbs. So that's how that we need to understand, right? And similar like that, all these bodhisattvas vow and Moksha's vow are also like that. Until it does disturbs to maintain its commitment, then better not to say the careless those precepts, right? For instance, then that how to say, in a very rough example now, let's say very rough example. Even some people gossiping about Dalai Lama that when he visit to those other different religious traditions, and then he do whatever they ask, such as like when he visit to the Muslim temple, he wear this cap, the hat, then he wear this shawl, and she's also doing in the front of nothing in a wall. There's nothing in Muslim, right? There's no statues, right? And then when he visit to the Christian community, Christian society, Christian temple, and then whatever this Christians, the priest or those followers suggest him to wear, thing, he will just put on based on his own dress, and he will put on. And then he will just do that in front of Jesus. So when you reach to that stage, then this really doesn't matter because now he had irreversible faith in Tribhuvan. So these things cannot disturb his commitment. He cannot disturb his faith and devotion. This is, I'm just giving you an example, one small example, which is I'm using this Dalai Lama because he's the one everybody's seeing it, right? So probably all of you, when I give this example, all of you understand it very clear. If I give some not well-known example, then what? Who is that? You may not understand. That's why I'm using this. Anyhow, so the point is this. Okay? Point is this. So that way we need to understand why this many precepts. These precepts are all purpose is to not to lose this commitment which we made it during the receiving the vow. During the receiving vow. At that moment, that whatever we take it, pledge, whatever we took it, pledge, or whatever we took commitment, and in order not to lose that or transgress that, then these precepts are very important. If we able to follow this, as I said earlier, it is not something immediately that we can follow up all those precepts. Yes, it is difficult, and some of those precepts are even very challenging. For example, like this in Bodhisattva's precepts, there are 18 or 20 precepts. But one, for example, one the precepts is like that. Majantoni Jamin that there's other persons who didn't train well in their study, who didn't train well their understanding about this Mahayana teachings. And before that, and you are just giving some high teachings like emptiness, everything is emptiness, and there's no karma, there's no body, there's no head, no eye, no. Then, if I teach that to anyone who didn't train a little bit before themselves, if I just directly teach this 9th chapter, the wisdom chapter, then it might break my bodhisattva's vow. Because through that, if you give up following this path, then I lose my bodhisattva's vow. See? That's why I'm saying. So, even to follow these precepts, following these precepts is really much helping to not to lose this my commitment to benefit others and not to lose this kind of like when we see disturbs others, then we may feel a little bit lose that our commitment to willing to benefit others. So before we build this very stable, firm, and better not to do it, these things. And these things might becomes condition for you to lose your commitment. This is in a very common way, it is very much becoming in a mundane way. For instance, even within parents and their children. Parents trying their best, put the best effort, and then when it doesn't work, then parents will say, okay, it doesn't work then. I will not do this again. I will never benefit this again in this way again. So just give up, you see. Then it becomes condition for lose their strength. And once some parents, for instance, even there are some parents who have this commitment to help and support and benefit their parent, their son and daughter, very firm. When they have this very firm, then even your children doesn't really follow all those things, doesn't really matter. It won't affect to change your commitment. That's different. And then even in a mundane, that when we help somebody, and then when they didn't appreciate, and then what we're doing, and then we give up supporting them again. That's what normally we do in a mundane. And that's now you see, when our how to say when our try does not work to help and support them, then we're thinking, okay, now forget it. He or she is kind of like not understanding, not appreciating me. Okay, just let it be. Forget it. I won't help. I won't support. That kind of things happening. That things happening because that when you don't have this very firm, determined that regardless what, I will try my best. If we have this very firm determinations that no matter regardless what, when you have this very firm, then even you try something when they didn't appreciate it, it doesn't matter. You still keep trying. You won't give up. So that's how. That's why we're saying. What I'm saying this is because of this one precepts of this to maintain this bodhisattva vow is to not to teach before that person train or study a little bit more on this basic things or foundations. Don't teach it those. And don't go so shortcut, right? If I go and with that, and if I don't have really firm, then I may lose my commitment. If I have very firm commitment, then even I may not lose this commitment. Even that kind of things happen. I will going to try, right? No matter what. Even I say they give up, and then but still I will going to try in many other different ways to give them educations about understand these high teachings such as emptiness, how you should understand, how you should when you should study, and how you should take it, and how you should understand all those emptiness teachings such as this. And also not just that, they also kind of like not just emptiness, and then also gossiping so much. There's also another precepts, right? This is the one precepts that which can break our concept as well. And like that, others, another kind of like a gossiping, kind of like saying that okay, this Mahayana, it's kind of like so challenging and difficult for you to do it. And then also, oh, this Theravada path is taking so long for you to liberate yourself. Why you don't just try this Mahayana path, which leads you towards your goal very quick and swift way. And by gossiping in this way, that if other give up completely those Theravada path, then again that Bodhisattva, he or she breaking his own, transgressing his own, his or her own Bodhisattva. So you see, that's what I'm saying. That from the really beginning, just able to follow all those precepts, it's absolutely very difficult. And I'm just showing you one precept, how it is challenged to keep that precepts alone, right? And then, but if we really contemplate on how, why and how they made these precepts, and yes, this precepts really helps to those bodhisattvas, new bodhisattvas, that they're trying to benefit others. When they try to benefit others, and this kind of mistake could happen. So therefore, they are recommending you may not do this because your commitment is not firmed yet. So if you encounter with such kind of this kind of situation, then you may lose your commitment. You may lose your bodhisattva. So therefore, for the new bodhisattvas, and then this kind of like a precepts, yes, it does help. Without firming one's own commitment so strongly, and then teach something very high to other, and then instead of that person understanding this meaning or accepting this, and then he or she might give up following those paths and then completely choosing another path. Then when that situation happens, then if this commitment is not firm enough, strong enough, then what I will going to do? Then I will going to give up. Maybe this I cannot do it. I cannot keep this bodhisattva vow. It can become condition for myself to give up this commitment. So when we don't have this kind of commitment strong enough, and it is much better to try to follow those each and every precepts. But at the same time, as I said earlier, following properly from the beginning to all those precepts is challenge. Itself is challenge too. And therefore, we don't have to be so rush. We just take time and train ourselves. Try to make it those all, put into practical step by steps. And eventually, we try to follow all those precepts. But however, before we are able to practice all those precepts 100%, or before we make it this so firm, and then what we need to understand in order to make it, in order to be able to practice it, in order to make it be able to firm, strong enough, and we need to understand why this many precepts. It is all precepts to maintain this commitment. When we look through this way, then yes, all these precepts make sense. If we don't look through this way, then if we just separated these two completely different, and then we just watch this commitment or the precepts alone, then some precepts are not really, why is this? We may doubt. Just like as I give you an example, this refuge vow. When we have refuge vow, there will be 9 precepts to maintain your commitment. And some of those people raise doubt, right? Like that. And like this within this bodhisattva vow, these 18 or 20 precepts. And then if you just watch without this purpose, just this precepts, then it might also raise the same doubt in this way. Somehow, okay, anyhow, so this is the now, the anyhow, so that what you call we are here to how to maintain this bodhisattva's vow, And then in chapter number 4, the Shantideva guiding us to study all those precepts which can help us. And then after understanding all those precepts, then you may need to learn that how does this act. And then understanding all these things, and then try to have a sense of carefulness to not to against those precepts, to not to lose this bodhisattva's vow. Sense, you need to have a sense of carefulness. And then based on this carefulness, and then also another important things that which we need to develop in order to not transgress and not lose this bodhisattva is this mindfulness and introspection, which we are here right now in the mindfulness and introspection. And based on this having mindfulness and introspection, then based on these three things, sense of carefulness and mindfulness and introspection, and then to practice step by step on those bodhisattvas path. And then start from this, the morality, that morality itself has these three stages, which we discussed before, right? That discipline of the refraining from wrongdoing. First, you train yourself in that morality, that discipline. And then after that, and then if you want to develop your training, your practice, then move to the next stage, which is the second stages of discipline, which is the discipline of gathering virtue. And then once we familiar or train ourselves, and then in order to progress, develop further, move forward, then we may try to practice this third type of disciplines, which is the discipline of benefiting others. And that so today we are here, we are studying both of this already, and then now we are trying to train and study and train into that third stage of discipline, which is the discipline of benefiting others. And then the discipline of benefiting beings, and then that some of the method that which we already learned. Then among this, the benefiting beings, then the mainly Shantideva that he showed this in stanza number 484, that therefore understand this well. Understand this well is that above one, right? The first stages of discipline and second stages of discipline. Understand all this well. And then based on this, and always labor for the benefit of beings. Then try to move on to the third stage of discipline. And then the compassionate one far-sightedly permits to the ends even what has been prescribed. Now you see, as long as it's benefiting others, and then the far-sightedly, the compassionate one permitted to do it. Now, therefore it is considered like there's no really specific. This is the only that you can benefit, and this way you never can benefit others. There's no restriction now. That whichever way it works, and then those are trying, bodhisattvas are trying. So therefore, there's no one specific can say, okay, this is the only one that you should try and then benefit others. There's no such a one thing. So therefore, it is limitless. It is so limitless, but has to go based on these two things. First, you train these two stages of discipline yourself, and then based on this, and then you try, when you try to do the discipline of benefit beings, and then that is very limitless. You can do in many different skills, many different ways to support and help. And then, but from this stanza number 85 to kind of like 90, And then this, since I think this is Shantideva guiding that since that as long as it is benefiting others, and you may have to do whatever you can do it. And then that teachings may overestimating some beginner practitioner, some begin practitioner, they may take this as an overestimation. Yes, this is happening a lot. Believe me, this is happening a lot. Because they're saying, oh, he said give everything. He said give everything. Okay, so now I should try my best to give everything. And then you tried it, and then it doesn't work, and then you give up. So now Shantideva doesn't want us to happen this one. Therefore, he's even this in a stanza number here, that to benefit others, in briefly, he's guiding here two different way, that either you benefit through your belongings or you benefit them through Dharma teachings, right? So now here, okay, it is saying you benefit them through your belongings and through whatever you have. And then you benefit them through giving protections, like method, teaching skills, or whatsoever, right? First it is saying, and then first in this 84 stanza, it's also saying like that, oh, there's to this end, even what has been prescribed, it's also you allowed to do it. For compassionate foresight will be permitted. And through this idea, and then begin Mahayana practitioner could overestimate this. And then they may try something over than their own capability from the right beginning. And then they give up later. This is quite happening a lot. Okay? This is something we should be careful. And for those then that he's giving this, okay, yes, it is right that you should benefit others through giving your belongings. But what he said, give everything except the 3 ropes of religion. You see, now Shantideva doesn't want those new practitioners to overestimate their practice. So in this case, Shantideva was talking based on ordain, but you shouldn't give these 3 ropes. Even though you have nothing else to give, and even though if others ask this, better not to give this one, right? Likewise, now for the lay person who is not ordained, then it becomes different, right? There's no 3 ropes. Now what? Maybe that what you are wearing, don't give, right? What you're wearing this, what you really need for protect this your body to be able to practice, and don't give this what you're wearing here now. Don't give this very little what you have to eat yourself. That's now balance again. It's coming to the middle way, right? These are for the beginner Mahayana practitioner. Beginner. And then once you have irreversible kind of like a strong on this path, then yeah, it doesn't matter. Then even people giving their body, right? There's a lot of history. But new practitioner, don't just look those history and jump. Yes, you should look those history and then admire them, and if you are not right now, make aspirations. One day, may I be able to do it same thing as they did it. Rather than making these aspirations, before making any aspirations, don't just do it and jump over there. Then, later when you found that this is something so unbearable, then you feel regret. When you feel regret, all this your generosity is wasted. All this your effort is wasted. And all this taking hardship is useless. So therefore he's saying that too, right? And then also he said, for my benefit others, you shouldn't harm your body. You shouldn't harm your body. This is also he's teaching this to the beginner of Mahayana path. Beginner of Mahayana path. That you shouldn't overestimate yourself. And then you shouldn't act over. You should act. Yes, but you need to keep in sense that, okay, this is something I should try to make it. Sooner or later, whenever I could, I will try to make it. But don't overestimate it right now and just don't follow right away. And if you does this, then it might, becomes condition for oneself to give up this path. Therefore, it's saying this: the body used to practice sacred teaching should not be harmed in meaningless pursuit. Here, I told you this already. This is not just meaningless. Even with the meaning, don't do it that with the minor benefit. For the minor benefit, for the purpose of minor benefiting others, you shouldn't harm your body. By acting thus, wish of all beings will swiftly and completely be attained. If you do this practice in this way, then you gradually will going to benefit all. This is what it means. This, by acting thus, the wish of all beings will swiftly and completely be attained. And you can fulfill others' wishes. Don't try to fulfill other wishes like those minor benefits right away by harming. If this is not harming your body, then it's okay to do. But if it is harming your body, and then rather before you acting, it's better to reconsider like that. And therefore also here, now this is stanza number 87. Ninja samba mataba lüdi tamar mishade chinendidan shendo yang tension drubi yutang. Now this stanza has two meanings. The first two lines is showing here now. They should not give up their bodies whose compassionate thoughts are not yet pure. Here. Now this one. Not yet pure or ninja samba mataba. This is kind of like in some scripture, they're making this boundary until you achieve the first bhumi stages. First bhumi stages. Before that, and there are many different levels of bodhisattva, right? Bodhisattvas, like such as the path of accumulation, right? There's a 5 path. Path of accumulation and path of application? Path of joining, right? Yes, path of joining and path of seeing, right? The first stage of bhumi is and the path of seeing are same. So until you reach to the third stage, path of seeing, and some scripture they're making this boundary. This when our compassionate can become pure is when we reach to that stage, and that stage mind it's the pure compassion. At that time, if we do it these things, kind of like give up one's own body for the others, one's own life for the others, then it might be okay. But until that, they're making this border. Here, Shantideva said they kind of like not really clear, right? He just said that they should not give up their body whose compassionate thoughts are not yet pure. Now, where is the borderline that it is pure or not pure? How I can judge myself? And then for that, some scripture describing that means that until you achieve the first bhumi stages, among the 10 bhumi, first bhumi stages, among the 5 path, the third level, path of seeing that stage, until you achieve that stage. And I would say better not to try this kind of generosity. And this is what it means. But somehow, however, so this is now it is saying, whose compassionate thoughts are not yet pure. And what happened without the having that strength if we try to practice this generosity, giving up body and life for the others? Then it is saying it might not help others, one thing. And then second things, you might get regret later. And then when you get regret, then it's all mess. There's no point of doing this. You lost your life, you lost your body, you lost your marriage too. We are accepting this loss of life and body for some merit. But even through losing these two things, not gaining some merit, then what's the purpose of losing this? There's no purpose, right? So therefore here now, that's why this stanza, as I told you earlier, Shantideva's try to making balance here in a middle way, come to the middle way. That for the beginner, especially this for the beginner, this advice for the beginner Mahayana practice, that not to overestimate and then don't act something that beyond your capabilities. And if that's the case, you don't need to worry. That you just keep that aspirations and then train yourself and then work on it. Gradually, you will be able to do it when you reach those stage. When you keep that aspiration and when you keep train yourself, and this aspirations and training will help us to reach those booming stage, those stages of path of seeings. This training will help us to reach that stage. When we reach that stage through this our training, through this our keeping that aspiration, then at that moment we can really do it rather than just keeping as aspiration. Then we can really act it. That is the timing that Shantideva letting us understand. And don't just overestimate this jump right after. Sometimes this is happening a lot. When we listen teachings, and even during the Shakyamuni Buddha time, it has happened a lot in India too. Some those, the kind of like the Theravada practitioner, when Shakyamuni Buddha give teaching about selflessness, you see, very funny. At that moment, many ordained, they give their robe. And then they want to die. They think, okay, now this is useless to survive. And there's a history in a Patimoksha vow why Shakyamuni Buddha prohibited killing others. Why this became the root downfall. There's a history behind. He didn't make it this root downfall from the very beginning when he gave this Patimoksha vow. Patimoksha vow. No. This is all he made it this root downfall, 4 of them, right? All has a history behind it. And then the first one is very funny, that how when he made it this law or the rule or the discipline that you cannot kill others, is during that he gave this teaching, selfless. It is part of emptiness actually now. It is not Mahayana teaching actually. It is Theravada teaching. And Shakyamuni Buddha gave this teaching that, okay, he thought that he already gave many teachings like the basic teachings and like the law of causality and then how this samsara is and all these things. And now they should understand the source of the problem, which is self, which is less. He wants them to understand that. And he gave this selfless teaching. And then at that moment, many bhikshu, they got so mad up themselves. And then there's a one bhikshu who killed 60 bhikshu. See? Who killed 60 bhikshu. Why? And then that all those bhikshu want him to kill them because they found it there's no self. So no point to live alive. This is now you see overestimating the first beginner practitioner when they heard these strong teachings and then they influenced by that and then they immediately overact. Later you see it becomes useless. Anyhow, this history like that. And then he decided, first he killed one bhikshu and then one bhikshu actually asked him to kill actually. That's not something he wants to kill. He asked him to kill by saying that, okay, if you kill me, I will give you all my things, these 3 robes and everything to you. Please kill me. And then he felt it like this kind of like unnecessary compassion. And then he killed this bhikshu. And then he got everything. And then when he go to the river to wash his soot, right? And then he saw one kind of like a god in the form of God standing on the water. He saw one god. Human cannot stand on the water, right? And then he saw one god standing on the water, and then he's giving excellent. You did excellent. And then he thought, oh wow, this is something I did excellent. I'm getting all the things, all their belongings, plus this is great merit. Okay, so now I should do it more. And then he went and one by one he killed 60 bhikshu. And then after 15 days, that every 15 days that they gathering in the Theravada vow, that they gathering to confess each other's mistake and then renew their commitment and all these things. Every 15 days we gathered. This is something even we're doing in Nagrulim too, still. So when after 15 days, when they gathered and bhikshu become very less, and then Shakyamuni Buddha, what happened? Where is those bhikshus? Those bhikshus are gone already. And then Shakyamuni Buddha asked question, what has happened? And then they said, okay, this is that person's name, the bhikshu. And he killed it, those 60. And then, oh, so this is something prohibited. And since then, bhikshu, whoever killing others, and then that becomes the rude downfall to them too. They lose their kind of like Bodhicharayavatara, wow. And since then it becomes law. Before that, just Bodhicharayavatara, wow, there's not really restriction. Isn't it very happy moment at that time? No restrictions. And he is the become condition for Shakyamuni to make it these restrictions. And like that, rest of others, there's also history like that too. The lying, stealing, and sexual misconduct and all those also has these histories related with what they've done before. Therefore, he made it. Anyhow, so why I am telling you this is overestimating. And during the Shakyamuni Buddha time also happened that kind of things in the past. And still, if we don't careful, and still it might going to happen with us. We overestimate. And we think this is something good to do it. But actually it's not. This is all because of overestimating. So therefore, this is the Shantideva also saying this is something that they should not give up their bhajans whose compassionate thoughts are not yet pure. So better not to do it, this one. So you see, as I told you earlier, above what he said, far-sightedly permitted to do all these things as long as benefiting others. Now he's saying, yes, but better not to do this. Isn't it a little bit contradicting? Looks like contradicting. Actually, it is not contradicting. It is with a reason, right? First, the chapter 84, it's saying, understand all these things and always labor for benefit beings. So as long as benefiting others, do it, kind of, right? But now here, you need to do it as long as benefiting others, but not for the minor benefit, but not to harm yourself, but not to give your life and body until you reach to the certain level of certain stages of compassion. That you need to make it. Don't be so rush and overestimate it. This is what it means now. And then the second two line is, but let them be surrendered when both now and in the future lives great benefit is thereby gained. Now you see, if you have that kind of very firm determinations, and then you are just completely giving up this for the others, and then it's also benefiting both now and the future, then you may do so. Now this is Simon. You may do so then. See, one stanza, there's two meaning, right? You may do so if you have all this. You may not to do if you don't have this compassionate thoughts pure yet. You may not do so. And you may do so when, if you have very this strong kind of like a faith and commitment, and then this your action is also benefiting now and future. Means the future you will not going to feel regret by doing this, which is something you have very firm determination. What I'm doing, I'm just doing. Even it is something goes wrong, I will not going to feel anything. So when we have that kind of determinations, then you may do so. This is something like that. And then now this is something that he said, practice generosity, right? Give belongings to others. Now, first he's saying give belongs to other, then he's making some restriction. Don't give this benefit. That's a one restriction, another restriction. And then don't give your life and body until you reach to that stage of pure compassionate. Don't do it. And that's three restrictions, right? Three restrictions is there. Why he is showing these three restrictions? To beginner, to not to make overestimate. Okay, come to the middle. You just give whatever your belongings, and as long as something that is not really needed for your survival. And then, but now this is again it is very much depend on myself. Now there's a lot of excuse. Okay, I can say, oh, this is something I really needed. Then it's up to us, up to me. As we discussed before, what Shantideva said, pay due to remuneration, right? Actually, what we need is food, shelter, and clothes. Yes, that we need, basic. But as I told you earlier, food, and then we may make excuse. Clothes, we may make excuse. And shelter, we may make excuse. Very easy to make excuse from there. And then this one also. Now you have to be honest to yourself. Nobody can make judge this one. You have to be your own teacher to make judge. that whether this really I need it or not. No one can tell except those omniscient whether you really need it or not. But we put this glass, oh, I really needed this. Without this, where am I going to drink? Actually, it is not that I can buy, I can give this and I can get the little poor quality, but still I can drink this hot water safe. And there's one joke that the Dalai Lama advising us, Tibetan people, right? Tibetan peoples are kind of like some rich, they're making this kind of like the container which we eat in samba, right? Tibetan people used to eat samba. And then wearing lots of golden rings in the finger, and then using this wooden, what do you call it? Wooden container, pot, yeah, huh? Wooden bowl, right? We had this tradition, wooden bowl. And then person who are a little bit rich, what they're doing, they putting the gold outside, the gold and silver, they put it there. And then all these golden rings and silver rings, big, big. And you're making samba. And then Dalai Lama just teasing, why unnecessary things you're doing here? Very difficult while you're making samba. Very heavy, this cup, bowl. And then also you need to worry that whether this cup is going to be lost or not. You need to really take care and everything. And then he's also just, when he gave this advice to us, to say, rather you eat this very ordinary wooden bowl or in the golden, covered by golden wood bowl. Samba is the same. Only to fulfill your stomach. Rather you use this golden one or without golden. Samba is same. So it is even better without having all those rings, gold rings, and not having the golden marked this wood. Even better. Same. Isn't it now? Actually, this is truth. But still, we mundane, still we wanted to cover by golden still. So now this is our excuse. And then they will say, without covering this gold to this wooden bowl, I won't be able to eat samba. And that is my necessary for survival. If you put this as a labor, this is my necessity for survive myself, then who can make judge? Okay, this is no, you are wrong. Who can say that, right? If you don't make yourself teacher to make judge yourself. Nobody can say that, right? If somebody will say, then maybe sometimes we're doing even more when somebody say it. Then if somebody tease me in this way, maybe I put more gold. Before only 1 kg gold, and later I will put another 1 kg, make it 2 kg gold in this small wood bowl. To kind of like a challenge, right? I'll see what you can do now. That kind of silly is also happening. It is much better if you don't do it anything. But still it is not enough good. It is even better if you sell this and get the normal wooden bowl and then enjoy your samba. But that is not actually the point here. What I'm saying is that completely depend on oneself, individual, that whether this is very sufficient for me or not. Right? That one should be honest to oneself. No one can make it judge so much about these things. So therefore, however, he said this before, right? So pay due to remunerations. Don't pay over, right? Don't pay over. Don't make them work for you rather than you working for them. Make your body to work for you rather than you working for your body. He gave this example with the servant and boss, right? Like that. So when we say that, then some beginner practitioner, and then they overestimate, make an overestimate. And then he's saying, okay, plus that he's saying that you should practice generosity by giving all your belongings. Then by this advice, and some opposite now, that person is very strong attached, right? Now there's other one who really heard this teaching and then who really want to follow immediately. Both are not good. Okay? Both are not good. So one who doesn't care, I don't want to follow this advice. But on the other hand, getting so excited and then wants to follow right after, immediately. Then that becomes overestimate. You need to come to the between, in the middle. Okay, then. So until now here, Shantideva said this. First thing he said it, so practice generosity to providing or giving all your belongings. But on the other hand, these three things kind of like restrictions. Better not to give when you are incapable. These three things, you just work with its situation. Don't give everything now. Here again, kind of like it is, isn't it? First, it is saying just give your belongings to for the benefit others. Now, after that, but these three things, you just be a little wise yourself and then skillful yourself to whether you should give it or not. You can make it balance. Likewise, now from here, and also he said, give dharma to anyone, right? First, he already said, give belongings to anyone for the benefit of others. And give dharma to anyone that whoever wants for the benefit of others. And then now again here, making some restriction. Shantideva making some restriction, even giving dharma to others. Like here now. Magubala Chumishi, Minashindu Bodhicharayavatara, Tudan Karwachundona, Goyoba Dala means. Do not teach the Dharma here now. Do not teach Dharma. First he said, yeah, give belongings and give Dharma to anyone. Now here, he's making some exceptional restriction. That do not teach Dharma to the disrespectful and to those who poor, not sick, but wrap the clothes around their head. See, that's why in Tibetan tradition, did you notice? In nowadays, even Tibetan young, they don't know this. But our ancestors, every time when they consult some lama, when they go some teacher, it is very important for them to take off their cap. And then they keep here, and then go. And after consult, come back, then they put, and then go. See? And then in the teaching the sport, they will never wear the hat. Take off all these things. And then this thing, after teaching finish, and then they put, and then they go. This is all now, following this advice. Minashin Magibala Chimishi, Minashin to Bodhicharayavatara, Tudan Karwachundana Goyoba Dalami. And then also to those who carry weapons. And then who staffs. What is that, staffs? Wooden stick? Okay, to the karwa, okay, staffs. Or parasol, or the umbrella. And then to those who are with the covered hat. Like a covered hat. So Muslim people doesn't get the teaching. So I'm just busy. So this is something now here. Again, now here. You have to make it this very clear here. He said it, this exceptional. He also has this exceptional in this stanza. I think this missing here in this English translation. Do not teach to Dharma to the disrespectful, to those who thought not sick, wrap clothes around their head. Oh yes, though not sick. See, though not sick. This is the exceptional word. If they are sick, okay, then you can rub your head. And then maybe Muslim person, they can say this is religious purpose. Then okay to cover. See? As long as you have a good reason to cover it, maybe it's okay. But here, the reason they made it clear that though not sick, you're not sick, you don't have any problem. But you're just doing all these things to show the aspect of disrespect. If you're doing that, and then persons who are doing that, actually, Shandideva recommending, then better not to give teaching. See? First he said, give teaching to whoever wants to study. But now, don't give teaching to those who are disrespectful, who are not sick, but still they are covering their head, they're keeping their weapons, they're keeping the staffs, they're keeping their umbrella. And umbrella is also like not in the hot weather, right? These are also exceptional. If this is so sunny, raining, then you can listen Dharma teaching with the umbrella, better so. But without any of those reasons, just kind of like this may be a problem with a little bit with the women, I think. They overcarrying their skin. They put those parasol, even very little sunny. Oh, it burns my skin. I think Shandideva doesn't want those women to carry those parasols with it. Not just women, actually. He's not saying women. He's saying to everyone, right? Whoever, without any reason, using those parasols or the umbrella. But women, I just said it because this is happening in our society, right? Yeah. Most of the time, the man doesn't care. It's like the little tiny sunny. Most of the time, it's women. But some men actually even still like that too. That's no. That's kind of things is everywhere. Anyway. So now, anyway, the point is here. He said, give teaching to anyone. Now he's saying restriction. See, this is also not to make overestimate too. Teaching, you have to give to everyone. You cannot be biased. People may make excuse, right? People may use those words racist. If you do that, that means you racist. You can use this reason. I'm not racist. Here, look. It says, don't give teaching to those. If you want a teaching, you pull off your head cover. If you want a teaching, put away your weapon. If you want a teaching, don't use your law. You cannot have all that whatever you want, right? It is kind of like you need to give up something for something else. Anyway, and then also, menla saltan yachetan keba mebara pimemi menna chogi chönamla sumbaru kübe kundu je. Menla saltan yachetan. And to those upon the lower path, this is now general. teaching, right? General teaching, you shouldn't give to those who are not sick, but doing this behavior. You have to give teaching general. Now, specific, particular, to those upon the lower path, do not explain the vast and deep teaching. See, that this is now something actually what's also related with the Bodhisattva's precepts too, right? You shouldn't give these teachings, that vast and deep teachings, to the beginner, to the persons. Their vessel is just good enough to follow the lower path. Their their capability is not enough to practice those higher path. This is what it means now. So without training them, now here, that's why the this kind of like a 9 yana are the order. 9 yanas is the order. And then among the 9 yana, there's not the first, actually we can say 10 yana. In Buddha's teaching, the first he giving this, the yana of human and gods. This teaching. And this teaching is highly likely, it's the Nagarjuna described in this letter to a friend at the very beginning, is 6 things to remember. Right? 6 things to remember. This yana is for the very beginner spiritual practice. It is kind of like to the first, when they enter into the first Buddhist study, and that is what they should study about this 6 things, which are study about Buddha, study about Dharma, study about Sangha, and then study about God. Yeah, now God does not mean God now again. This is a little bit complicated to let you understand. And then study about the self-discipline. What are those? And then remember the generosity. See, these 6 things. Jedento, in short we call Jedento. Jesu Tembatu, that you need to remind yourself these 6 things. And study about these 6 things. What is that? Yes, these are the 6. And persons whose vessel is to, whose capability and vessel just enough to practice these very basic spiritual path, and don't give to those the path, do not explain the vast and deep. Don't teach them. Again, you see? Then that is also now you cannot say that, oh, you are racist, you are biased, you are not giving teaching to me this one, and you are giving this teaching to someone else, but not to me. And this problem is also there a little bit sometimes among us. That's the one thing. And then now here, nor tutor women unaccompanied by men. Now this nor tutor, actually this no need here in this translation, they put it nor. I think nor maybe not problem, but the nor. Huh?
All of them.
Huh?
All of them.
All of them what?
No man. No man.
Huh?
All tutor, all the women would come.
No, this is not like that. It is one by one. One by one. Okay, it is like that. We need to make this clear. Yes, Keba mebar pimen min. If the teacher is ordained, then ordained teacher cannot give teaching the single student of woman. There must be some man together. One man at least together. Then ordained teacher can give this teaching. And then now that kind of like a lay teacher, now this teaching for the lay teacher is to other than their own spouse. Other than their own spouse, and they cannot teach one by one. That's the exactly. And their spouse is different now. For the lay teacher, spouse each other. If the female teacher, lay female teacher, and then lay female teacher can give teaching to their own spouse, one by one, single, one by one. But when that lay female teacher giving teachings to the some other than their own spouse, and then must have one woman together. No, never one by one. Likewise, for the lay male teacher, it's also like that. And then now, likewise, the female nun, like let's say the ordained, female ordained, and if she wants to give teaching, and then she cannot even give any kind of man single. This is what it means now. This is what Shantideva was saying, Keba mebar pimen. So don't teach the teaching that if you are ordained, then any kind of one by one, not good. Same gender, no problem. Again here, now you see, same gender, no problem. Different gender, that's a problem. This is not something that they're making this is big deal and problem. This is something happening. Problem. And we want to make excuse this one too. See? Because we think this is okay. Why being so kind of like a narrow-minded? People we use this excuse. Why are you being so narrow-minded? And why are you being so, what do you call it? Restricted about that. You are giving teaching, so this is something beneficial. By doing that beneficial, there will be happen just beneficial, unbeneficial. That danger is there. To prevent that danger, and then that's what I'm recommending. Do not do it this way. And this is all purposes that this is not just races and all this. Actually, both are excellent, and this teaching is not needed. Both female students is excellent and male teacher is excellent. Then okay, no problem. There are also his stories like that too, right? Kind of like the Nandarawa Guru Rinpoche, one by one, teacher, student. And both are excellent, so no problem. There's no problem. But still, we have gossip involved about that. During Guru Rinpoche doing this, and there's a lot of gossip. Guru Rinpoche got punished from this king and everything. There's a lot of gossip too. But still you see, from the mountain point of view, still not good. That one. So, better not to do it from the beginning. So it is not necessary either. It is not very necessary that we need to teach one by one. We can teach 2, 3 students together, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, whatsoever, together. Anyway, so this is what it's saying. Now you see, you can give teachings, but you cannot give teaching in this way. Now you see, the restriction is there now. And also, this stanza showing these 3 restrictions, right? The above stanza showing kind of like a one restriction. First he said, okay, give teaching to anyone. And then now he's saying, making this one restriction. You shouldn't give teaching to those who are disrespectful, who are not sick, but still covering their head and keeping weapons and then staffs and parasols and those you shouldn't, one restriction. And then next stanza number 89 has three restrictions. The first restriction is that he's saying, to those upon the lower paths, do not explain the vast and deep teachings. And then another restriction is, nor tutor women unaccompanied by men. Nor tutor men unaccompanied by women. Same way. This is just two-sided coin. You just flip up. If the female student, we need to change this word. If male student, twist this word. If both female and male, then we should say both. Right? We should say both. And that's why I'm reading this. Nor tutor woman unaccompanied by man, nor tutor man unaccompanied by woman. That way. This is second restriction in this stanza. And then third restriction is, and every dharma, whether it is high or low, expound with the equal reverence. Whether you are teaching like a very basic teachings, or you are teaching some sort of like a vast teachings, or you are some sort of like teaching deep. You can say like this, okay, whether I'm giving teaching this 6 remembers teachings, or I'm giving teachings like a renunciations, about renunciations and selflessness, or I'm giving teaching about loving kindness, compassion, and emptiness, or I'm giving teaching like the generation stage teaching or completion stage teachings, or I'm teaching like let's say like, or I'm teaching kind of like a highest those Dzogchen teachings or Tummo teachings or Poa teachings or Vajrasattva teachings or whatsoever. And every Dharma, regardless high or low, expound with the equal reverence. See? And then Gachin Chuji Nugirba, Mimichula Jamijas, Chubayonsu, Dormija, Dodanga Jimijas. And now this is also two meaning. Those suited to the teaching of great scope. Now, he said it earlier, the lower part. The person who suit the lower part, don't explain those vast and deep. Now here, those who suited to the teaching of great scope, like those vast and deep teachings, and should not introduce the lesser part. Okay? You don't need to introduce, because they already know all these things. Now they have to progress, they have to move forward. So don't just give this lesser teachings and just let them practice there. And then the rules of the conduct you should not neglect nor lead astray with talks of sutras and mantras. And this is also sometimes it might happen. Okay? What does it mean? The rules of conduct you should not neglect. How can I say now? There's some persons who can really do it. Here in this English, I think, conduct. The rules of conduct should not neglect. Yeah, this meaning is something that when someone able to perform, the actually benefiting others. Okay? Benefit others, something through him or her doing it. And then we're just saying, oh, you don't need to do this. You just recite some sutra and recite some mantra. That is more sufficient by helping them. And that will go into sufficient. And that kind of, through that way, trying to convince to change their intention and their willing to helping others. Actually, they are capable. Okay. Now this is very tricky, isn't it now? Isn't it tricky? How I can understand, okay, for instance, I can say that here, Malay. How I can understand, oh, Malay is very capable or incapable about helping them, let's say, for instance. And then if Malay is very capable, if I say, oh, Malay, you don't need to support them in this way. You can just say some prayers, say some mantras and say some prayers. Just let it be. And this is what its problem. You shouldn't neglect. This is what it means. The rules of conduct you should not neglect, nor lead astray with the talks of sutras and mantras. If I do this to Malay, then Malay, if I am able to convince Malay, then Malay will not going to support them. This is because I convinced by saying this. And this is something improper for me to do it. Now you see, these are very risk to those teachers who try to teach, and then the students will raise this kind of so many questions like this. Whether I should do it or not, and then teacher got what to say now. There's many problems. Highly likely that oneself understand oneself whether I'm able to do it or not, right? And especially after all understanding this, how it becomes great merit, mediocre merit, lesser merit, all this technique, then we don't really need to consult concept now. When we have all this understanding, which means we have this capability to judge ourselves. But still, we like to ask. And then let teacher judge. And then teacher got headache. Okay, what to say now? This is what it is saying. Choba yonsu dormisha, dodamaki jimisha. Ji means like kind of like deceive. Don't deceive them by this sutra and mantras. Just saying, oh, this sutra is very powerful. Just read that, that's okay. Then you don't have to do anything. And just read this mantra, that's enough. You don't need to do anything. It is not like that. When those are incapable, yes, then it is much better than doing this reading sutra and chanting mantra. Yes, because it just start from incapable. Then that's okay. If someone is capable, but still convince them to not do those things, then that's not a problem. This is what it is saying. That the rules of conduct you should not neglect, ignore, neglect, right? The rules of conduct. When we say this, the rules of conduct, then what you understanding to this word? These are two different meanings, right? Above two lines. Those suited to the teaching of great scope should not be introduced the lesser path. One thing. And then the rules of the conduct you should not neglect nor lead astray with the talks of sutras and mantras. That way. So here the point is now. First is saying give teaching. Now here he's saying don't give teaching to those like this who are disrespectful and who doesn't have any sick problems but is still kind of like covering hat, keeping weapons, parasol, and staffs, and all these things. This is general. And specifically, and don't give teaching those vast and deep teachings to those who are not vessel enough. Now, these are very tricky to make judge, isn't it? How can I judge this now? How can I know all of you? Whether you are vessel enough or not. These are now some sort of like a challenge and burden to teacher. Isn't it? And if I say it, then immediately go, oh, he's racist, he's biased, he's blah, 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 blah. Very difficult here. And especially in these countries, right? We can see this very racist problems and biased problems. And that is actually very easy to say it. And if I have to prove that that person is not vessel enough, it is invisible. It is invisible. If you want to prove that he is biased and racist, very open, visible. Because he kicked out me. It's showing clear he's racist, he's biased. He didn't kick out them, he kicked out me. And everybody see very clear racist and very clear biased. Yeah. And for me to show that that person is not vessel enough, no one can see it. No one can understand it. Isn't it? No. Tricky. That's why this is tricky. Now this is something, it depends on teacher that understand all these things and then has to be wise and skilled according to its situations. That's it. That's all I think teacher can do it. And then if I don't give teachings, for instance, this is just an example, okay? I'm not saying that I am capable to give teachings, okay? I never had that thought. But let's say, assume, for instance, I'm able to give these teachings of, like, say, Mahayana, emptiness. Then, if I exclude any of you from here, or from tomorrow, this is we're going to teaching begins this emptiness. So down, you are not allowed from tomorrow. You go away. Then, immediately problem. And then Dang May going to ask me, Tugu, how you know I am not vessel enough here? I think I am vessel enough. Right? That's something kind of like a. In a one hand, the Gochenze, what he said was very correct method here about giving this kind of like a secret mantra and teaching. What he said was, sometimes we think that and then we can calm down ourselves a little bit. What he said was, this cigarette To those who are not vessel enough, even I teach, still it is secret. So don't worry, you are not don't worry that you are expressing out some secret. Who are not vessel enough, it's still a secret. Even you talk, they don't understand, they just hear some voice, that's it. That is still a secret. And people who are vessel enough, they're getting it. So you don't have to divide there, kind of like. That's what he's saying. This is on the one hand, it is truth, right? If we make very open, direct, divided, then raises, bias, dharma, all this is there. And just let everybody, whoever wants to come, come. Then I'm giving some very secret teaching. Even I explain, still it is secret. Let's give little comfort sometimes when we think about this. But this depends on a teacher too. Yeah? Some teacher, no, you even can talk. Doesn't matter whether they understand or not understand. You just even talk about all this. This is not dependent on teacher. Some very restricted, some little bit loose. But both has the same goal to not to exploit out the secret. Yes. It's the same goal. Don't exploit out or don't expose the secret out. Same goal is there. Anyway, okay, so now we should just stop here. Chandradeva showing some restrictions after he's saying, okay, you should give your belongings, you should give teachings. Then after that, you shouldn't reconsider giving these belongings, and you should consider to giving these teachings. Reconsider. He's giving some reconsider. That's what we need to consider. That's the another thing. That's actually even, isn't it? That's the limitless. There's nothing it is prohibited and not is allowed it. Not very one solid allowed it, not really one solid prohibited. It is all depend with the situation now. Therefore, this Bodhisattva's method is like a limitless. You cannot so say this is 100% prohibited. No, there's a no 100% prohibited. And also on the other hand, you cannot say this is 100% allowed. No, there's a no 100% allowed. My teachings you are allowed. You see, there's a no one thing, one solid thing. Anyway, so if you have question, we can discuss. Not, then I'm going off. Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to send you a comment of my daughter about the teachings. She said, well, if everything is emptiness, why do I have to get good grades?
See? That your daughter said?
Yeah.
See? That's why Chandradeva was saying, don't explain these vast and deep teachings to those who are not enough vessel yet. Then use this as a kind of like a tools to fix you. Then you cannot say anything. Then now it's too late for you to correct. These things you have to be with the relative truth. Right now, you have to be with your daughter relative truth. What is going to happen wrong if you don't have a great mark? What is the consequences? And what is the sense that if you failed, and how your same classmates are going up and you will going to behind. Tell this to her, then let her get great marks. Rather than let her think emptiness and worry less, worry less about great marks. Yeah? We dedicate. Zanamde Tamje Zibani Pone Niben Ranam Pamjeni Shegananji Wala Tubai Sibin Zulen Doa Doa Shu Yamba Bawen Jidra Kimbana Kundu Zambo Deyan Dejinde Deda Kunji Jesu Daloji Gewan Deda Tamje Radumo Gewan Yeshu Sunam Yeshe Zodron Sunam Yeshe Lejonwe Tamba Kunyin Tubashu Sanje Kusum Nyebe Chinlanda Chenye Mingyur Dembe Chinlanda Gende Meche Dembe Chinladi Jeda Moa Melam Dubashu. By this beneficial activity, may I obtain omniscience, and having vanquished the harmful enemy, greed, anger, delusion, may I liberate all being tossed about helplessly by the waves of birth, aging, illness, and death in the ocean of becoming. By conforming to the knowledge of courageous Manjushri, Jambaya, and in the same way as Samandabhadra, Kundusambo, and following their example, I dedicate perfecting all this virtue. By this virtue, all being perfectly achieve the accumulation of merit, sunnam, and wisdom, yeshe, and may they thereafter obtain the two holy bodies, which result from these two accumulations. By the blessing of the Buddha, Sanjay, who obtained the three bodies, by the blessing of the immutable truth of the Dhammata, Chendu, by the blessing of the infallible expression of the Sangha, Gendu, may this prayer of dedications be accomplished just as it is. Thank you. Have a good day.